The sweet couple, who looked normal, actually had a shocking secret. The husband was an Immortal clan member with super healing powers. The wife was a shapeshifter who could turn into animals. Neither of them knew about each other's race when they got married and had a kid. Quang Yi, their son, was just a regular college student, but 2 years ago, Quang Yi's mom suddenly told him she could shapeshift, which left Quang Yi kinda stunned. Unable to believe it, he asked if she could turn into Sailor Moon or a demon girl. But after she showed him, Quang Yi totally believed it, and learned that tonight his shapeshifter bloodline would awaken. Quang Yi couldn't believe his mom was only telling him such a huge deal now. While he was trying to process it all, his mom seriously told him, "Don't tell your dad about this." He blinked and agreed. Then one day, 2 years later, Quang Yi was buying veggies with his dad when his dad suddenly said he had something to discuss. Quang Yi thought it was about school stuff, but his dad seriously said he was from the Immortal clan, which freaked him out. Are they playing trap within trap with me? But why could both parents just casually drop such huge secrets? Even though his dad warned him, "Don't tell your mom," Quang Yi wasn't totally convinced because Immortals usually look super good, but no matter how he looked at himself, he didn't see those traits. His dad comforted him. "Today's your 24th birthday. At 11 tonight, your immortal blood will awaken. You'll know then," and again told Quang Yi not to tell his mom. He blinked and agreed, still not understanding why his parents had to hide their true identities from each other. But mentally, Quang Yi accepted them as they were. But after awakening once 2 years ago, he deliberately asked his dad, "Did it hurt a lot when you awakened?" But his dad casually said it didn't hurt much, just felt his blood burning hot, then after a while it cooled down, so he told Quang Yi not to worry. Back home, his mom had carefully prepared a warm birthday party for him. Lying in his bedroom, watching the clock near 11, thinking about really awakening his immortal self after already awakening his shapeshifter side. What if he failed? How would he explain it to his dad? A huge question mark filled Quang Yi's little heart. Then 11 o'clock came. A sharp, intense pain spread all over his body. The agony was so bad, Quang Yi couldn't say a word. He remembered what his dad said on the way, only to get mad at his dad for lying to him. Quang Yi's dad was an immortal with crazy strong healing powers. His mom was a shapeshifter who could turn into animals. Quang Yi inherited the strongest bloodline talent in the world, but when he awakened this talent, all his hair fell out. Every drop of blood in his body went empty. His bones cracked into pieces. But after enduring the side effects of awakening this talent, Quang Yi would become a whole new person. Not only would his hair grow back fresh, but he'd also gain strong white muscles and bright white skin. Even all 5 senses would become insanely sharp. The worst part was hearing weird sounds every night. While Quang Yi was struggling with this headache, his mom suddenly called him out for breakfast. His breakfast was way richer than usual, not just 4 savory dishes and a soup, but each dish was piled high. While eating, his dad suddenly told him to prepare for the civil service exam, which shocked both Quang Yi and his mom. His dad did this because in peacetime, immortals are managed by the government, but Quang Yi's mom didn't want him to take the civil service exam, because 2 years ago after he awakened, his mom decided that after college, she'd arrange for him to work at a big company connected to the shapeshifter clan. But she didn't want his dad to know she was a shapeshifter, so she just used the excuse that Quang Yi still had to study to refuse. This left him totally confused. Though Quang Yi knew his parents wanted him to have an easy job, this was the first time he saw them disagree. So Quang Yi happily ate while watching his parents argue. Right then, his parents looked straight at Quang Yi. Turns out they wanted him to decide whether to keep studying or take the civil service exam. Quang Yi didn't want to pick either and said he wanted to join the Navy. This immediately silenced his parents. His mom looked at Quang Yi with pure hostility, like he wasn't happy with the decision, but after thinking it over, Dad backed Quang Ich's call. Hearing that, he totally lit up. Thought he was one step closer to his dream, but nope, Dad flipped the script. "You can join the Marine Corps, but you gotta pass the civil service exam first." Dad even said if he passes, he could help delay his enlistment to join the Marines, plus throw in some bonus points. Quang Ich thought it over and agreed, not for any other reason but because his dad had been a civil servant for years, so trusting him seemed like the smart move. At least he could still join the Marines, just a bit later. After hearing Quang Ich agreed to take the civil service exam, Dad said he could find a tutor to help him ace it fast. But Quang Ich had to go undercover for special training every Saturday, and his trainer was one of Dad's subordinates. This so-called training was really just to toughen up Quang Ich's immortal body. The trainer eyed his muscular frame suspiciously. Because immortals usually have weaker strength, only Quang Ich knew it was due to his shapeshifter mom's bloodline. But the trainer didn't know that and thought it was just from gym workouts. They quickly headed to the training ground, and seeing the floor covered in sharp blades, Quang Ich froze a bit. He had no clue what kind of training Dad had set up, but the trainer didn't start the drills yet, instead explaining why immortals have such powerful healing abilities. First, it's because of physical strength, strong body, stronger healing. Second, sensory ability. The more sensitive you are, the more pain you can feel at different levels, which helps pinpoint injuries. So their training focused on these two aspects. Even though Quang Ich got what the trainer said, he still didn't get why there was a mountain of blades behind him. The trainer flashed a creepy grin and said it was to toughen his body and teach him how to be an immortal. Quang Ich looked kinda lost. Aren't you supposed to study for the civil service exam? The trainer was just as confused. Your dad told me you're joining the special immortal forces. Quang Ich was dumbfounded. He'd never heard of that, but knew he had to pass this test to become a Marine, so he just went along with it. No one would ever guess Quang Ich, rocking purple polka dot pants, had to run barefoot over that blade mountain. The trainer told him to speed up, then screams of pain echoed in his ears. Quang Ich's feet were bloody, but the trainer could tell from the blood patterns on the blades that he purposely avoided some in the middle, though he couldn't criticize him. Instead, he praised Quang Ich's motor nerves. His healing ability shocked the trainer too. Usually, immortals just waking up don't have such strong healing. Just as Quang Ich was about to take a break, the trainer told him to run a few more laps while injured and forbade him from dodging anymore. Better to stomp hard so you break a leg, which totally shook him. Quang Ich didn't expect his dad's pick to be this ruthless, so he kept running. His super healing also stunned the trainer. He didn't expect his superior's choice to teach him to be this gifted. Quang Ich was kinda struggling with this self-torture and asked, "How much longer do I have to train?" The trainer said until he got dizzy, and each dizzy spell would raise his pain threshold. Running on blades is to help you not faint or freak out from pain on the battlefield. Then he asked Quang Ich, still not dizzy. But he knew with this training, Quang Ich might never get dizzy because of his strong shapeshifter blood. Then he asked, any other way to pass this round? The trainer thought for a bit and said, if you can run across the blade mountain in 6 seconds, you pass. Quang Ich laughed. He could run 6 seconds before, but never gave it his all. Running like that hurt like hell, but he tried to ignore it. If he went all out, he definitely beat 6 seconds. Watching Quang Ich run like a maniac, the coach's eyes went wide, but after seeing him panting like crazy, he yelled for Quang Ich to run again. But it wasn't because Quang Ich ran over the time limit, he just forgot to count the laps. Compared to the first round, which was like a death trap, the second round was even crazier. Here, take this. Quang Ich quickly grabbed the rope and held it up, his face confused as he asked, what's this? A dog chain or what? Quang Ich quickly spoke up. You'll need it for the second training. Wear it around your neck. Quang Ich obeyed. He touched it and said, this feels uncomfortable. What are we supposed to do with this? Hearing that, Quang Ich replied, breath-holding training. The words hit Quang Ich like a brick wall, his body trembling. So this is the collar, he interrupted. Exactly. Quang Ich raised a remote control in his hand. He explained, when I press this button, your neck will tighten. Then he added, don't take it off, just tighten it. You've already run the path full of spikes. You're not just going to walk away now, right? Hearing this, Quang Ich angrily slumped down on the ground. He grumbled, why can't I just dive underwater to practice holding my breath? Quang Ich answered, you think that's enough? This training is also about enduring the choking. If you pass out during a fight, you're done for. Ji kept explaining. Like with the spike training, you focus too much on passing out. After years of brutal war against special species, normal people have learned to face us. But shouldn't the opposite work too? He suddenly sighed and said, we used to train by hanging from trees. The world's gotten better. Hearing that, Quang Ich muttered under his breath, annoyed. Don't tell me it's better because of stuff like that. He chuckled lightly and asked what the passing condition was. Quang Ich replied, if you don't pass out, you should at least endure for 5 minutes. Quang Ich calmly answered, 5 minutes. Got it. He continued, also, I recommend you don't try to force the collar off or steal the remote unless you want a hole in your chest. But hey, that might be a way to train too. Hearing this, Wang firmly said, understood. Then Quang Ich asked, so, are you ready? Quang Ich replied, yeah. Ji pressed the remote. All right, let's start. His groans echoed non-stop. Quang Ich gripped the ground in pain. The collar around his neck slowly tightened, his face turning pale from choking. Quang Ich struggled on the ground, clearly in agony, his hand trembling as it touched the collar. Quang Ich came over and hit his hand hard with a stick. He warned, I see you can still hold on. Then Quang Ich walked away. If not, just collapse right there. At this moment, Quang Ich was in extreme pain, his whole body shaking, cursing silently. Damn it. Worried, he wondered when this hell would end. I'm sure it's been more than 5 minutes already. His vision blurred, his face full of exhaustion and frustration. Finally, he collapsed on the ground, reaching his limit. The collar instantly loosened. Quang Ich jolted awake. The remote whispered, what? Why did it turn off? His eyes were dangerous. Could it be out of battery? The collar was quickly removed. Quang Ich breathed heavily, cursing Quang Ich silently. I almost died. He replied, you won't die. He gasped. His pale, tired face said, "Just because I didn't pass out doesn't mean we're gonna do this again, right? I'm sure I lasted more than 5 minutes." Hearing this, Guy raised a watch and said, "That's right." Actually, it was his voice that startled Quang Ich. 12 minutes and 41 seconds. Hearing that, Quang Ich was confused. "Didn't he say the record was 8 minutes? Should I be mad or what?" he softly said. "Uh-huh." Quang Ích looked at him proudly. Seeing that, Quang Ich begged, "Please don't look at me like I'm a kid who just got a new toy." Suddenly, it was afternoon, and Jian's voice echoed inside the house. "Now rest up, you gotta eat." Hearing that, he replied, "Are you cooking for me?" He quickly answered, "When you're hungry, nothing else works. Your head needs to eat too." Quang Yi poked his head out from behind the door and asked, "Do you need any help?" The guy replied, "Just sit still and that's enough." Hearing that, he sighed in relief, feeling thoughtful, thinking, "Well, I don't know how to cook anyway, I just need to sit still." A horrifying dish was quickly served, the guy's voice full of malice, telling him, "Here, eat this." Quang Yi's eyes widened in shock. He stammered, "What's in it?" Jiang Yi asked back, "You want to know?" He replied, "Not really." Soon evening came. Quang Yi was outside in the yard wringing out clothes, standing under the stream, deep in thought. You think to yourself, next time I gotta cook. When I get back, I should learn cooking from mom. Quang Yi thought, no. First, I need to ask dad about this. I should call him, but I'm not allowed to use my phone, so it got confiscated. He grabbed a rock and climbed up the bank, his voice tired as he said, "So exhausting. At least I should be able to sleep comfortably." The simple scene before him suddenly hit his eyes. Quang Yi froze, a mosquito buzzing past his face. Quang Yi quickly caught it and asked, "Hey, teacher." He asked, "There's no light here at all?" Hearing that, the guy replied, "If there was light, bugs would come in. They wouldn't dry out like this." Quang Yi could only helplessly say, "Uh-huh." Jiang Yi quickly lay down, sighing tiredly. Quang Yi slowly lay down in the arranged spot. The guy explained, "This is to train your sense of touch. Having a good sense of touch will make you feel danger more than others. The first time, you definitely won't be able to sleep because it feels so uncomfortable." Jiang Ji's eyes turned to look at the guy, sitting up. Seeing Quang Yi sleeping soundly, he exclaimed, "Oh my god." The guy's call rang out, "Hey, get up for breakfast." The dark meal appeared before Quang Yi, who could only sigh tiredly and say, "Thanks for the meal." The guy grabbed a chicken leg and stuffed it into him, making him understand, "Immortals need a lot of energy, eat up." Hearing that, he replied, "All right." He asked, "What are we training today?" The guy replied, "Confusing clip diving." Quang asked more. "Something really tough again?" Jiang quickly explained, holding his breath midair, controlling his senses for the upcoming impact. He ate while asking, "Based on today's and yesterday's training, the thing Immortals should be most careful about in battle is getting shocked and knocked out by a strong impact, right?" The guy glanced and answered, "Exactly. And one more thing, you have to be careful about your mobility getting worse when your legs are cut. So your hands are a shield for Immortals." He continued explaining, using his hand to block someone's strike that caught him off guard, like if they aimed for your head or legs. Jiang's serious tone rang out. "Also, you should be more careful with knives than guns and watch out for clay and mines." Hearing that, he sighed tiredly and said, "All right, I get it. These outdated examples, the enemies have come from another world already." The guy got annoyed with his picky eating and shouted, "Why are you so picky? Eat fast, we gotta train." His terrifying days of brutal training began. Quang Yi was pushed off a cliff. Just like that, jumped quickly. He was forced to run training. Suddenly, the deadline was up. I finished all the training sessions. The next day, I took the bus home. Quang Yi quickly called. The other end picked up fast. A voice rang out. "Hey son, listen up." He quickly replied, "Dad, did I really come to the right place?" Hearing that, the other side answered, "Why? What happened?" Quang Yi sighed tiredly and said, "The guy made me jump off a mountain." Yo On Ho quickly replied, "Son, it's all good. You're immortal. You won't die that easily. So you can be harsh on your body." He continued explaining, "That's how you find your limits." Hearing his dad's words, he thought, "All I found out is my body is really tough. Anyway, I haven't fainted there even once." Yo comforted, "Anyway, you did well. Go home and rest." He then asked a question, "So what's this exam all about?" Yon Ho muttered softly. Suddenly, his mom's voice rang out, "Sully, help your dad. I've got something to do. We'll talk later." Then he hung up. Seeing that, Quang Ich thought to himself, well, hearing the results won't change anything anyway. Just gonna chill like dad said. Relaxing images popped up in his head. When I get home, I'll take a shower, play some fun games, play PS5. Enjoy a delicious meal cooked by mom, sleep like a baby in my own room with zero mosquitoes buzzing around for like 20 hours straight. His face lit up with pure joy, thinking, Yeah, this is the perfect spot to unwind. Then Quang Ich's mom spoke up, shower later, come with me somewhere. His happy moment instantly vanished, and he froze on the spot. Soon Hai grabbed his suitcase and pushed him out the door. She urged, I already told your dad, you really should go to college. I packed your stuff already. He panicked and yelled, I can study on my own. Wait, the word suitcase made him freeze again. Mom found a tutor not too far from home, just nearby. He was confused by what she was explaining. You'll go there and stay overnight for 2 days. She was just giving him a heads up. Quang Ich panicked inside. What? This feels sketchy. Sun Hai quickly hung up. She said, I'll come pick you up in 2 days. Seeing he was going alone, he asked, Aren't you going to introduce me to the tutor? Aren't we going there to meet the tutor? She replied, It's fine. He was confused and asked again, Huh, what do you mean by that? Sun Hai gave him a sly look and said, Being smart isn't enough. The elevator doors closed. She smiled brightly. You gotta have a strong body too. The doors slammed shut. At that moment, I realized what was waiting for me. Quang Ich stood frozen in place. This ain't about college studies at all. He laughed bitterly, cursing in his mind, what the hell is this house? The elevator screen showed basement 1. The elevator reached the bottom floor. The doors slowly opened. Quang Ich stood inside, eyes full of worry. He glanced around, staring at the stuff in the room. These were dozens of neatly stacked weights. A GM room? Quang Ich blurted out in surprise. They remodeled the parking basement. Suddenly, someone appeared and said, So it's you. He was a bit shocked by the person's arrival. Du grabbed his wrist tightly and asked, You're Sun Hai's son, right? Hearing that, he stammered, Yeah, that's me. But I don't know why my mom brought me here. Du Hui answered. She said you've been studying nonstop for 2 days, right? She added, Your body's gonna waste away if you don't use your brain. Quang Ich thought about what happened, his face full of fear. I can't even tell her the truth. This is so unfair. Images of Quang Ich scared of his mom since he was little flashed in his mind. Mom's parenting philosophy was simple. If you don't obey, you get hit and you gotta take responsibility for your mistakes. His mom's familiar face with a gentle smile looked at him, and you just start taking it in. They stood facing each other in the ring. If I resist, Mom's gonna get beaten up bad. Back to reality, he sighed and thought. Refusing won't mean a thing here, right? Just by looking at this tutor, I can already guess. Suddenly, she held out a watch toward him. Take it. Quang Ich was confused and said, I get anxious when I get stuff like this. What is it? Du Hai replied. It's just a device with a bunch of measuring tools. Wear one on your wrist and ankle. Quang Ich obeyed quickly and put it on his wrist. He said, Are you planning to train me or something? She cut him off fast. You gotta take a test first. Confused, he asked. What kind of test? Du Hai pointed behind him. Now she pointed at the treadmill and ordered, Start running. He stepped onto the treadmill. Quang Ich ran as Du Hui instructed. She held her phone, her tone full of criticism. I heard you don't train on your own. Du Hui threw out a critical strike, truly a damn beast. Your heartbeat's steady, so your core's solid. But is this really all you can do right now? Quang's annoyed with the situation, thinking to himself, Why am I getting bullied like this? What happened to my PS5 gaming and chill time? Du Hui sighed and quickly roasted him, lazy as hell, because the world's got everything you want now, right? Hearing that, Quang thought it over. Aren't we about the same age? He started calculating in his head. No immortals and shapeshifters aging slowly, so she's older than she looks. Quang asked, How much longer do I have to run? Hearing that, Du Hui snapped, Don't stop now. Keep running. She started warming up her shoulders and explained, First is CIO. Let's upgrade that body of yours. With a confident look, she said, I'm gonna make you reborn from head to toe. Quang looked clueless, silent for a long moment. Then he groaned, I don't want another mom. Hearing that, Du laughed and said, Because you're Sun Hai's son. Looks like you're joking. Hearing that, he thought, No joke here. It was dusk. The clock in the room ticked nonstop. Quang still had to run on the treadmill. Du Hui said tiredly, Don't stop, even my grandma isn't this tired after just a little run. She asked how long he'd been running, and the sweaty guy struggled to answer. 14 hours, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. He was horrified by what was happening. So I gotta run all night without breaks? Even immortal training has rest times. Du Hui circled behind and explained to him, Fighting isn't just about trusting the body your parents gave you, right? Without training, you're just an amateur. She said, Listen and watch, here's stretching. Later, we'll practice memory exercises. Quang didn't get what was going on and thought, What the hell? How can a human body bend like that? She went on, You gotta train your flexibility. A stiff body has tons of disadvantages. Hearing that, he thought, What disadvantages? Running and thinking, he wanted to ask, but he was out of breath. Even a shapeshifter running for 14 hours straight would be wiped out. Du Hui asked about the time. He quickly answered, 14 hours and 10 minutes, and I gotta keep track in case I get asked. A video popped up on the screen, and he had to memorize it. Du Hui kept dropping theory on him. Quang was overwhelmed, but listening to the coach's instructions was intense, his eyes full of determination. But can I really take this in? His panicked voice rang out. What senses? Quang Ich stepped in to explain. Looks like he's good at locking down his senses, but that's not enough. If too many senses are disabled, your movements get chaotic. He pointed at himself and said, clear your mind, think about the senses you want to lock down, and at the same time, sharpen the others. In other words, you gotta learn to use multiple senses at once. Quang ran, breathing heavily, offbeat, eyes full of willpower, memorizing the moves in the video, ears wide open listening to the coach. While running, Quang calculated in his head, breaking it down, these are 4 different tasks, but my body's running and processing the coach's words and video all at once. If I put sensing the time aside, doing the other tasks isn't too hard. The clock ticked. Quang counted the last beats. 54, 55. In the silent room, only his voice. 56, 57. Time flew by. 58, 59. Exhausted, he blurted out, 24 hours. The treadmill session was over. Finally done. Du Hai held her phone, looking kind of proud. Your brain's pretty sharp, she ordered. Stretch out. Gotta keep your body flexible. Yeah. Du Hui asked, remember the video you watched? I'll demonstrate, so follow me. Saying that, she quickly dropped to her knees and spun her body backward. He stood there, face full of shock, trying to cheat. This body moves that smoothly. She snapped, come on, give it a shot. Yeah, Wang quickly got to work. His body trembled since he couldn't bend properly. Du Hai said, don't push too hard, flexibility takes time. She went on, we'll gradually increase the range of motion by repeating a pose every day. Simply put, we'll slowly tear those muscle fibers apart. Hearing that, his mind clicked, so healing after tearing muscle fibers is what boosts flexibility. Wang took a deep, steady breath. So I don't have to go slow, right? Immortals heal crazy fast after injuries. Then Quang bent backward hard and fast. I just gotta endure the pain for a bit. Du Hui freaked out at his move. She asked, you okay? He replied, yeah. Du Hui scolded, I told you not to overdo it. Who taught you to be so stubborn? He suddenly grinned, eyes full of confidence, staring at Du Hui. But I did it, didn't I? Hearing that, she sighed and said, wow, you're one interesting guy. Then she said, that's enough for today. Now, let's eat. A huge pork leg appeared before him. Quang freaked out and asked, are we seriously eating a whole pig? She happily grabbed it and said, yeah, that one's mine. Another pork leg popped up, and this one's yours. He was shocked, each of them eating a whole pig. Du Hui slipped on gloves like a pro and confidently said, eating is training too. Get used to fueling up for the next workout after every meal. Hearing that, he helplessly said, you're like a bear just waking up from hibernation. They both started devouring the 2 massive pork legs. She reminded him, after eating, clean up your spot. 2 days a week is way too short, barely enough to get to the main point. He replied, got it. His mind happily thought, damn, just some roast pig with a bit of seasoning tastes this good. He pondered, maybe it's because I ran all day without eating, but seriously, it's delicious. She said, finish it all. If you leave any, you're dead meat. He quickly answered, I was taught never to waste food since I was a kid. After a while, Du left, and she reminded, I'm heading in now. After eating, remember to shower and get some sleep. He sat alone in the empty room, looking totally bored. Well, this is way better than sleeping in the woods, getting bitten all over. Holding up his phone, unlike Master Jeon Ongi, Min was allowed to use a phone here. Should I call Mom? Thinking that, Quang quickly dialed, and the other end picked up. Mom. Sun Hai's voice came through. Son, how are you? Feeling okay? Hearing that, he helplessly thought, they sent me here but still worry about me. Wang replied, no way, I'm fine. Mom told her many times not to go easy on me just because we know each other. She showed concern, but Mom was still worried. Confused, he asked, what do you mean? Sun Hai answered, if she goes easy, tell her to be tougher, okay? Your dad's here now, Mom's busy. He froze at their dynamic, but Mom, don't you worry about your own son. After the second day of training, I realized some stuff. If the Immortals training is crazy, then the Shapeshifters training is just plain dumb. How many pounds can a human lift? What's the max reps in one go? The grueling training journey for the 2 and Du began. No, you can do one more, just one more. I'm about to die. Understanding and pushing past your limits is the core of training. And science is heavily involved in the Shapeshifters training with tons of gadgets and electronics. The Immortals training also uses devices to crush you. Anyway, my conclusion from all that training is, Du Hui boredly criticized, your reflexes suck. She tossed a dumbbell at him and said, lift this. Seeing it, Quang thought, 20 kilos, plus brakes on each side, that's 60 kilos total. Quang quickly grabbed the barbell and lifted it easily. Lifting it was no problem. The shapeshifter's strength is triple that of an average man. Do Hui ordered, hold it and follow me. They walked up the stairs and she pointed ahead saying, now, run with it. He blurted out, huh, she's seriously ordering me around.
Run. Quang Yi froze at the scene. Run. Here. Is this the second crazy stunt after that sword thing?
She went on explaining, balance your body, always feel your center of gravity, and use reflexes to handle everything else. Wang Yi hesitated a bit, then asked, is that okay? Du Hu firmly said, keep doing it until it works. He glanced around and thought, are they using the basement corner wall? It's just as long as half my step wide. Then he asked, if I fall, that's not a mistake, right? Hearing that, she looked at her tablet and replied, the chance of injury from a 3-meter fall is low, but don't think it's okay to fall while running. The #1 priority for shapeshifters is to protect their bodies. The tablet's voice echoed out, Lucas, damn it. No, Mike, damn it. Blind now? Curious, he pondered. What is she watching? I thought she was checking my results or something. Du kept talking. If you get hurt on the battlefield, that's a huge disadvantage since your body won't recover as fast as an immortal's. Hearing that, Quang Yi sighed deeply, thinking, what else can I do? Just get it done. The teacher was watching Netflix behind and said to protect your body. Immortals like me can heal broken bones way faster. So Quang Yi grabbed the weight and stepped onto the wooden plank. So I'll run with the mindset that falling is no big deal. Suddenly, he felt something and opened his eyes wide, a dizzy sensation bursting out. His 5 senses were heightened. His sensitivity let him feel the pressure on his shoes and find his balance point. Quang Yi, sweating, walked on the plank. Although most shapeshifters have great reflexes, they can't compare to immortals who have sharp sensory perception. He walked upright, thinking, I can do this. This is kind of fun. Plus, my legs haven't been stabbed by a sword yet. Quang Yi quickly returned and reported, I finished safely. She ordered him to do 2 more rounds back and forth. Hearing that, he replied, all right. Du Gai's eyes looked at him, thinking, the plank is 4 centimeters wide and 50 centimeters long, but he can finish without falling once. Du announced, I'll up the difficulty. Seeing what was in front of him, Quang Yi's face went pale. A rope? He anxiously asked. I'm gonna run on that rope? Hearing this, Du Hai quickly answered, yeah, it's a real rope. This training is called the single rope. She stood up and explained, the plank was just a warm-up. Looking at your body, I thought you wouldn't make it, but you must have been born with good senses and balance. Seeing what Yui was doing, he asked, is there padding this time? She replied, it's really hard and won't break, so be careful when you fall. If you grab the rope, you'll get burned, so just fall down. He asked again, I'll run holding the weight, right? Du Hai said, start by going barehanded first. Hearing that, he got lost in thought. After getting used to the warm-up, I'll have to carry the weight and run on it. But I'm not scared. It's still easier than the immortal training. His eyes filled with determination, but in terms of difficulty, this was a hell-level complex part. Quang Yi started stepping on the rope. He felt tense, but the rope was stiff and barely wobbled. It wasn't like falling off a cliff or facing strong winds. There were mats underneath, which made him feel safer, even with padding on the floor. Quang Yi's eyes were full of confidence, not scared at all. Thinking that, he quickly ran fast. Just run. The more he moved, the more unsteady he got. He calmed his mind and thought, maybe I should slow down. Step by step on the rope, light footsteps, he gradually sped up, like he was bouncing. Quang Yi moved swiftly on the rope. Wise eyes were full of excitement watching him. That day, the teacher looked at me like I was way more interesting than the video she was watching, and it made me run on that single rope all day with the weight. Time passed, and the next day came. Du Hui said goodbye to him. See you next week, dude. Quang Ich bowed respectfully to her. The car started rolling. Then Super Unanhai's voice rang out. Quang Ích. She asked, are you curious why your mom makes you do these things? He quickly replied, of course I am. His tone turned cold because his mom couldn't stand seeing her son get beaten like that. What she said next shocked him. You should know how to use your body better. Right now, you're too weak. Quang Ich thought silently. Who's weak, Mom? If my friends heard that, they'd totally freak out. His nickname at Joe's school is One Punch Man. Quang Ich got lost in thought. Well, since that's how it is, I guess I gotta train more before entering LDT. At least I'm useful, not a burden. Even though the special power of the immortal that Master Jeonggi talked about made me think a lot, he made up his mind. I can definitely get into LDT, right? Dozens of bowls and plates were cleaned up on the table. Thanks, Mom, for the meal. Sunhai worriedly came over to check on her son. Have you been starving these past few days? Omi heard that and replied. After 4 days, I finally realize how precious your cooking is, Mom. Mom, Quang Ich added. Oh right, Mom, I want to learn how to cook. Super Ununhai didn't get it, so she asked again. Cook? He quickly found a reason to explain. Lately, sexy guys who can cook are all the rage, so please teach me how to cook for my future wife. Hearing his reasoning, Sunhai didn't doubt him and turned to reply. Sexy guys who can cook? Not bad. But don't you need to be sexy first? Looking at his body, she judged, saying with that physique, you're probably a fat guy who can cook. Hearing that, Quang Ich whispered, Mom's always so funny, right? Super Ununhai's tone suddenly got serious. I'm serious. So stop relying on your shapeshifter body and eating all day. Seeing that, he quickly changed the subject. But Mom, please keep cooking now. His mind flashed to Master Jiangyi's image. I'll take that dish for myself, the nature-loving guy with eyes that lit up. She replied, all right. Hearing that, he cheered happily, thinking, okay, now the food problem is solved. Quang Ich looked up, his mind full of thoughts. Training. Huh, I can't do anything now. What will we do next week? Like this week? He thought. Or maybe some new training? Meanwhile, Jiangyi was swinging his sharp sword. His mind was full of thoughts. Whatever. Jiangyi's face was full of excitement. Maybe it'll be harder than what I did this week. His scream echoed through the mountains. Birds flew away, hearing it, his hands stained with blood. After resting for 4 days, the master said the previous training was just basic stuff provided separately from the entrance standards. Quang Ich clenched his fists, meaning enduring hardship, stamina still weak, needing physical training now as mandatory courses. He immediately sat up, deeply thinking, I figured that out from the previous courses. Quang Ich raised his hands and looked at them, his mood thoughtful. Maybe this is shapeshifter training, but except for the extreme pain, this course was still better because it ended pretty fast. Of course, from afar, Jiangyi's voice echoed back. Hey, if you're done, come up here quickly. The thing is, this is just the basics. He grabbed the sword in his hand and said, one trait of immortals is regeneration. Being shot doesn't matter. Even if the bullet goes through you, you just regenerate your flesh and it's fine. But for weapons that don't use firepower like this, it's really annoying. It takes time to regenerate a severed limb. Hearing that, he replied, so that's why you told us to be careful? Jiangyi's face was full of pride. He swung the sword repeatedly in the air. You can endure attacks that cause minor damage, but for moves like these, you gotta dodge. Seeing that, he felt a bit anxious. Damn, he swings like a killer or something. Staring at the sword, he got scared and asked, so the reason you pushed the sword out is? Jiangyi asked back, what are you thinking? I thought you were smart. Right, this training is the next step in sword use, so dodge this sword. His tone was full of danger. Either make the mansion face that way or snatch it from my hands. The consecutive slashes he swung, Quang Ich dodged left, then right to avoid the attacks, then jumped back. Jiangyi's eyes were determined as he started lecturing him. The goal here is for you to dodge the big damage hits. If you can't dodge, then minimize the damage you take. You can't dodge everything, so get used to it. You look kinda light on your feet. Let me start over. Hearing that, he felt annoyed. How the hell was he supposed to dodge these? Then he answered, all right. His feet slammed hard into the ground as he charged forward. Slash. He swung a blade straight into his body, blood oozing out. He immediately attacked different parts of Quang Ich's body and said, if I aim for your thigh or calf, just use your shin bone to take the hit. Quang Ich slashed hard at his wrist or deflected it aside. Quang Ich, with his body, usually shut down and stepped back, calculating how to escape this fight. No matter what, I'm still gonna get cut by that blade. At least I've been through these sword training drills. His regenerative energy instantly healed the wounds on his body. Seeing that, Jiangyi's eyes filled with determination. Your regeneration's pretty good. Let's keep going. Saying that, he immediately sprinted fast toward him. Slash. Blood started spraying everywhere. Quang Ich collapsed to the ground, screaming in pain. Seeing that, he said, blood loss is one of the weaknesses of immortals. Hearing this, he struggled to respond. That's why. You carry those blood bags for transfusions, right? Quang Ji answered calmly. Yeah, it hurts, but it's best to stop the bleeding first. Quang Ich panicked, thinking, wait, does he really do that? He must be joking. Then he spun around and left to rest and eat something. Hearing that, he asked, what are you eating today? Jaime replied, what are you planning? Instant noodles? Nope. The backpack dropped to the ground. Ingredients neatly chopped on the cutting board. A delicious-looking bowl of pasta was served. It was Italian meat sauce pasta, Quang Ich style. Mom's secret recipe. If you want to make a tasty dish, cook something with lots of sauce. Quang Ji used a fork to taste the dish. He praised, tastes good. Hearing that, Ben replied, at least your taste buds are still normal, huh? He snapped. What? Quang Ich hesitated and explained, no, It's because immortals have sharp senses. Even if your taste buds are sensitive, you can still eat stuff like this. Hearing that, he devoured the food and said, cooking is a kind of training too. He replied helplessly, that's training? Quang Ich ate even faster. It helps me recover my strength. Hearing that, he could only say, got it. Eat slower. Back at training, he said to him, add one more thing. He was confused and asked, add one more thing? Quang Ich slowly approached him. You're used to taking hits on your forearms, so slash. Quang Ich immediately charged at him. Quang Ich's eyes wide with surprise. He said, it's time to train organ regeneration. He screamed in pain, collapsing to his knees. Quang Ich gripped the knife calmly and said, wait, organ regeneration takes longer, so basic training is mandatory. Quang Ich was stunned by what just happened, overwhelmed with panic, realizing he couldn't dodge. Everything happened too fast. He asked, how did you do that just now? Quang Ich proudly answered, you have to hide your traces. If your opponent's senses are sharp, you have to know how to mask your breath. He shouted, how do I hide it? Well. Quang Ich trembled in pain and muttered, damn, you stabbed a hole in my stomach so many times, at least say something. Hearing that, he casually said, I get it, you know. Looking at the wound, he said, it's about to heal already. He replied irritably, aren't you the one who stabbed me, so I have to regenerate? Quang Ich said, yeah, that's right. But do you want to learn how to hide your aura? He quickly answered, yes. Time passed. 2 days later, the elevator opened to basement level 2. Quang Ich stepped out and greeted, teacher, I'm here. A clicking sound echoed, a handgun pointed at him. Seeing that, Quang Ich asked, so today's a survival game, huh? She replied, something like that. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, the bullet whizzing past him. The bullet got stuck deep in the wall. Du then explained, it's a gas-modified gun using special ammo. Then she took aim and said, dodge it. He froze in shock at the situation, standing still like a statue. She kept firing shot after shot at him as he ran. While shooting, she warned, this gun's deadly. If it hits you, it can seriously injure you while you're moving as I'm aiming. Du Hui suggested, find something to hide behind. And if you can't find anything, just run so fast I can't get a clear shot. She coached him on dodging. Don't run in a straight line, zigzag instead. Don't let anyone predict your steps. If you get cornered, use all your muscle power to change direction and push your body up with force. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Seeing that, she shouted, don't get hit. Even one bullet can leave you helpless. If you're about to get shot, take the hit with a part of your body that won't cripple you. Hearing that, Quang Ich ran while thinking, trying to avoid losing mobility just like immortals do. His mind quickly imagined lessons from both sides teaching him that the fighting style of immortals and shapeshifters depends on their traits. Past training images flashed before him. Instead of teaching him how to fight, they taught him how to survive. Images of him giving up, then pushing past limits to survive, relentless effort in the past. Harsh training for any situation he might face. He quickly recalled those past drills. Immortals must be cautious of blunt weapons because they can cause massive damage. Guns are even more dangerous than rifles. On the other hand, shapeshifters are ready to fight knife users. All you need is to dodge and counterattack reflexively, and a shapeshifter's strength lets them do just that. For them, a gun's effective range is wide but manageable. You have to get close for the fight to end. They just keep as far away as possible to make hitting them impossible. Shapeshifters can't replicate their moves, so their motions are calculated to avoid damage. His heavy breathing echoed. Bullets scattered on the floor. Du Hui said, all right, training's over. He looked around and wondered, how are we going to clean all this up? Du quickly ordered, get up and run over to that tree, he replied. Got it. Quang Ich lifted weights while thinking, at least physical training like this beats hurting myself stupidly. He started walking on the tightrope when suddenly a disgusting creature appeared behind him. Quang Ich sensed it and got worried. The rope shook lightly, and he fell hard to the ground. Quang Ich turned back with a terrified face. Behind him was only Du Hui standing there, her eyes wide with shock as she exclaimed, your next move scared me. You felt it? Quang Ich asked, puzzled. What was that? Du Hui stepped closer while explaining, that's bloodlust. I saw you could sense it. The guy looked disgusted. Don't do that again. It feels like my heart's gonna explode. I hate it. Still, she radiated, killing intent again. You'll be fine once you get used to it, and if you have something like that too, everything gets easier. Quang Ich's face darkened with fear. Keep training. Things went on from there. The hellish shapeshifter training began, but hey, after 2 days, I don't fall off the rope anymore when running. I even figured out how to handle her bloodlust. Du Hui's serious face scared the guy. Damn, she keeps doing that. He gritted his teeth and pushed himself to train hard, thanks to his enhanced immortal senses. I could now grasp the bloodlust feeling from my 5 senses and use a 6th sense to control it. His feet stepped carefully on the rope, hands lifting a weight, abs tensed and steady, putting it all to use. Du stood below, watching closely, then let out a satisfied, "He's got it," his hand clenched tightly around the small sword. My training sessions kept switching between the Immortal and the Shapeshifter, and the Immortal training felt like some kind of hellish punishment. The tools were smeared with bright red blood, all to develop self-healing abilities. My coach kept shooting arrows. I had to train with axes and bows. Even sawtooth traps were used, and I had to be super careful with those traps. G pointed to my head to explain, "Once you get caught in a trap, the pain is brutal, and when the pain gets too intense, your brain just can't stay sharp." The other guy asked curiously, "So stuff that causes constant pain instead of instant pain is more dangerous?" He walked over to me and calmly said, "Usually, yeah. Immortals fight while taking damage. That's why you gotta get used to the pain. Because when you're hurting, thinking clearly is damn near impossible." Quang Ich's training went on with even harsher drills. So, next up was drinking poison. Training as a shapeshifter was way easier. I had to train wearing weights and iron armor. He was gasping while lifting weights with one hand, then adding weights to his ankles and wrists. The guy trembled, trying to keep his hands balanced. I also had to dodge bullets and step through fire mats. Other times, I trained with barbells. Of course, things changed up. While I was training, my dad went on a 10-day business trip. My parents were hugging each other tightly right in front of me. What if I wanted to see him while he was gone? Yeon-ho flirted back, "It's cool, babe. We get lit every single day." The poor kid beside them just groaned, "Mom, I thought Dad was gone for years or something." This time, I even trained with a wooden sword. When I wasn't getting stabbed all over, she taught me how to use weapons and martial arts. Suddenly, she commented, "You're picking up shooting pretty fast." Huh? Inside, Quang Ich thought, it felt pretty tough to me. He fought fiercely with the coach using swords, but that didn't mean it was impossible. Maybe because I have the strength and reflexes of a shapeshifter, I learned pretty fast. Du took turns supervising me. Even though it was just a model gun, it looked pretty real. The guy focused hard, raising the gun. Other times, she let me shoot. She seriously reminded me, training martial arts is good, but you can practice that at home. You'll get it just by watching some clips. But shooting is tough because it demands your full focus. Countless bullet casings flew out as I fired. That's what she said. But I've got that mixed blood with the 5 special senses of an immortal, so it was kinda easy for me. Night quickly fell everywhere. 2 months passed just like that. My dad sat leisurely on a chair with my mom. "Son, just got back from training, huh?" Quang Ich politely replied, "Yes, sir. I got a break after a grueling week of training, but it made me feel restless. Does my body not want to hurt?" "Hope not." Both of them looked at me expectantly. "You look way stronger now. Good job, son." Then they got all lovey-dovey again. "He's just like his sister, because he's smart like his brother." I just smiled quietly because I'm used to it. Their affection was intense. But why don't I have a little sister? Quang Ich's clothes were tossed into the laundry basket nearby. He glanced at his reflection in the mirror. He leaned his hands on the sink. A few jealous thoughts popped up. Why don't I have a girlfriend? My taste isn't even that high, so why not? I don't want someone too healthy and sexy like my mom. Just someone cute and mature, but also a little captivating. Bonus points if she can cook. Having a few shared hobbies would be cool, but if possible, I want her to look great in jeans. Even better if she's smart and sensible too. At that moment, Sun Hai's phone suddenly rang. She stood up and told her husband, "I'm going to see Mrs. H. Me for a bit." He was surprised. "At this hour?" She explained right away. "Her kid's going through puberty. She must be super stressed." Yeon-ho quickly understood the situation. "Ah, that stressful phase? Huh." The door quietly closed as Sun Hai left. Yeon-ho glanced meaningfully at the phone nearby. After Quang Ich finished showering, he went downstairs with a wet towel. "Mom, and I couldn't find the hairdryer anywhere, but the living room was empty. Huh, why is no one here?" The guy sat down in a chair and picked up his phone. A message from my dad had come earlier. "Got a test tomorrow." It had been a while since I last took a test. Weird feeling. He suddenly remembered some old stuff. My friends were also wondering why I didn't go to college after finishing the intense test. They took turns grilling me. "You seriously didn't apply?" "No way. Let me see your scores first." Quang Ich didn't really care much. I don't think I'd be embarrassed if I didn't use high scores for everything. I don't even want to go to college. I've already figured out my own path. Flashback to last year, the day the gates of hell started opening. The guy back then was small and weak, hiding under the rubble of collapsed buildings, tears still welling up on his face when Quang Ich showed a surprised look. But from the moment I saw him, that tall shadow in front of me was unforgettable. Fighting off countless invaders, I decided I had to be like him. He leaned back with a smirk. "My mom would be so sad if she found out. She said she wanted me to have a normal life like before I awakened. Where did she go anyway? At this moment, the convenience store was still lit. Someone's voice called out. Du walked over, waving. Soon, hi. She asked, what excuse did you use to leave the house? She glanced at her friend. I said I had to visit my parents who live nearby. The two of them stopped somewhere convenient to chat. You're not curious at all? Sun Hai pressed about her son. The other took a sip of water and replied, you don't ask what your kid's up to at all. She clicked her tongue softly. Teesk. I just want my kid to do well with that mixed blood. No, mixed blood between shapeshifters usually loses half their powers. Damn, Chiyu looked ahead, so I won't ask because I'm kinda worried. Elsewhere, a voice from the phone sounded shocked. Huh. What? You're serious? Yanho upstairs threatened the caller. You want me to chop off your limbs and throw you into the sea, or what? The other side retorted, you really don't know. I thought you wouldn't call because you already knew. Quang Ish's dad replied, confused. What are you talking about? But the other cut him off with a firm statement. He's abnormal. Yonho's eyes darted to the phone. What? Sun Hai was still pouring her heart out to her friend, saying her kid didn't have to be super talented or anything. I just want my kid to protect himself from crazy science groups or stuff like that. Du Hai suddenly slammed his drink down. Crazy science groups had existed a long time ago. Those bastards always tried to create special species by mixing others with purebloods. Words dripping with hatred were spoken. An abnormal one. Sun Hai agreed. Yeah, and they failed. They ended up creating monsters with the powers of both species. She was a bit annoyed mentioning those things. There's only one conclusion from what they did. If you're immortal, a shapeshifter, a superhuman or whatever, if you try to create a new species from humans, it only ends up weakening the original species' power. Du Hui laughed hearing that. You're lucky, huh? The person next to him was surprised. What? She looked straight into the woman's eyes to confirm her kid was way more special. Yanho was stunned hearing that too. Abnormal? You mean my kid's less than half as strong? I thought my son would be at least half since my blood's dominant. Quang Ich trainer objected. No, it's the opposite. He's very potential. He's a prodigy with talents I've never seen before. I even taught him how to hide his powers. His dad froze, shocked. Really? Du was drawing his own conclusion. His body has to be called perfect. But more than that, she looked concerned about what came next. She quickly added, he's got an amazing brain. Sun Hai was a bit pissed. Don't use that word. But she had to switch to amazement hearing everything she said. He's smart and talented. He even learned bloodthirstiness. Yanho shared the same feeling with her. If you're lying just to flatter me, I'll make you smell dirt for 2 weeks straight. She was wary of Juji. Your jokes aren't funny. Still, Juji's confident reply came back. I'm serious. Your son's very talented. The female trainer smiled sincerely. Your son is a genius. Quang Ich's dad gave a slight smirk, staying silent. His mom showed the same expression. Both were quietly happy, thinking to themselves, that's my boy. Quang Ich woke up from a good sleep, yawning big. Morning. Rubbing his eyes, the guy asked, where's dad? Super Sun Hai's busy making breakfast. He left early for work. You should wash up and eat soon. He was a bit surprised to see the fancy meal. Really? Whoa, is today some special day? Mom replied while bringing out the food. Of course, today was a big deal, and Quang Ish suddenly remembered. Yeah. He immediately thought about it. Today was the civil service exam day, and he was hyped, ready to max out his brain power. You gotta make sure your brain's got enough glucose, so people usually just think about what to mix in their water. Basically, it's just about eating something sweet in the morning. So breakfast doesn't need to be a huge feast, but instead of easy-to-digest stuff, just like that test, you get sleepy if you eat too much or suddenly gotta dash to the bathroom. Quang Ich replied quietly. Yeah, even though the training he'd been through wasn't about brain power but survival skills. His mind only pictured a brutal scene. In reality, blood flowing like rivers, some special immortal exam day. The dishes on the table were cleaned up in no time. Thanks, Mom, for the meal. Sun Hai walked him to the door to check in. You ready? The guy reassured her while getting ready. Yeah, he studied so hard that info was spilling out even in his dreams. He dreamed about having his leg cut off and organs stabbed. She muttered sadly. If you fail, your dad will be so disappointed. That caught him off guard. Quang Ich's mom turned to her with understanding. I get it. She didn't want him to become a civil servant but didn't want him to fail either. She wanted to cheer him on but worried about the shapeshifter inside him. He confidently told her, Mom, don't worry, I'm immortal too. His mom casually said, Really? Okay, if you fail, we'll meet in the boxing ring. Remembering her strength made him shudder. Damn, he just thought about something he didn't want to think about. Sun Hai went back to her usual gentle self and smiled. If you don't want that, then pass. Quang Ich happily promised. Yeah, I guarantee I'll pass. The guy stepped out and pressed one on the elevator. He hummed a few tunes while waiting, Music was the best stress relief. Suddenly, he jolted. Wait. With the sharp senses of an immortal, Quang Ich's throat twitched in response. The elevator reached the 13th floor with his smooth singing, though he kept saying things opposite to how he felt. Looking back, he felt regret. From now on, he'd tell her he loved her from the very first moment. Hyman accidentally grabbed her phone and walked to the elevator, overhearing everything. You love me that much. He felt something was off and stopped immediately. The girl sighed and set the phone aside. If you want to confess, don't sing. With that face, you don't need to sing. His attitude instantly shifted. Kang Hyman, why do you care about that stuff? She giggled teasingly at the guy next to her. Aren't you going to confess to me? Quang Ich gave a firm answer. Yeah. No. She pressed further. Why? He sighed, exasperated. Haven't I told you my ideal type like a million times? But then she suddenly grabbed his hand. Hyman smiled brightly, trying to charm him. You think a smart, beautiful girl with a banging body like me is easy to find? Right then, the elevator dinged at 1. He shrugged off Hyman's hand. Don't say stuff like that outside. Society's scary now. You want iron cuffs on your wrists? And smart. Do you have any conscience? She kept chasing after him. Wait for me. He coldly waved her off. Don't follow me, loser. Hyman curiously asked, Appa, where you headed? He answered bluntly, to the civil service exam. Hearing that, she blurted, Ed, you win. Quang Ich's tone got even more annoyed. They sure know how to advertise, like brainwashing. They both stopped at the bus stop. Anyway, I'm busy, gotta get to class. The girl kept begging, Appa, I'm a senior in high school now. Next year, you'll be heading to college. He just gave a half-hearted reply. Congrats. When you get your ID, don't waste your life on booze, the girl snapped back. You know you're only a year older than me, right? The guy immediately fired back. Can you tell the age difference yet? Hyman awkwardly blurted out. No, that's not what I meant. She radiated a sparkling glow, showing off herself. Right now, I'm at an all-girls high school, but I don't want to go to an all-girls college next year. Next year, this hot and sexy girl is going to attract a ton of thirsty guys. The other guy cut in sharply. You should focus on studying first. Her mom worries a lot about her. Him tried to convince him. We're dating, you know? You're supposed to help me study. Having a smart boyfriend is for stuff like this. Quang Ich strode straight onto the bus, waving. Who's your boyfriend? Poor guy just hit the self-destruct button. She got left behind and was super bitter. Get lost. He was already on the bus but sounded a bit hesitant. Kang Him Min's specialty. Giving the cold shoulder. Damn. This Ice Queen's a senior now but still hasn't changed a bit. The bus wheels rolled fast and soon moved quickly down the road. It stopped at a red light. The peaceful scenery around went on like usual. It didn't take long before he reached a tall, multi-story building. Quang Ich stood outside the entrance, deep in thought. 7:50. 9 o'clock? No, the exam just started, so I'm a bit early. Where should I go now? In the end, he decided to go inside the building. Hello. The staff warmly stood up to greet him. Yes. What brings you here today? He quickly explained the situation. I heard there's a special exam being held today. The man waiting nearby spoke up. You're a candidate? Quang Ich turned to answer. Yes. The man glared at him with intense suspicion. Can I see your exam documents? This made him nervous too. Why is he staring at me like I'm some kind of scammer? They quickly checked and then moved on to guide him. Here you go. Do Quang Ich. Yes. Confirmed. Take the elevator to the 9th floor. Quang Ich stepped out of the elevator, puzzled. This is it? The next guide was already there. You're a candidate? He naturally replied, yes. The woman asked to see his documents. She held 2 different papers in her hands and stared at them thoughtfully. Yes, confirmed. She pressed a button and the door opened. Go to the last room in there. Quang Ich politely complied but felt a bit annoyed. This is such a hassle. Is every immortal exam like this? His footsteps echoed through the empty hallway. The place was designed super minimalistic with many rooms. When he reached what was called the Special Exam Center, he stopped. This room? The guy stood still for a moment, trying to gauge the sounds. Surely there'd be blood splattered everywhere inside. But this is right in the heart of GOU, the old forces. Is this the world government's power? His thoughts hardened even more. All right, focus. When I open that door, knives might fly out. Dodging blades could be the entry test. The door slowly creaked open under his high alert, but what he was sure of was that the horrors, like the training he'd gone through, were waiting. Surprisingly, inside was neat and tidy. Not what you expected. The only person in the room spoke up. You're the earliest here. Quang Ich was startled by the surprise. No, the first thing he noticed about this person was that shiny bald head. No hair? The staff focused on saying, come here and show me your papers. Meanwhile, he was lost in his own speculation. We developed hair loss medicine with ingredients from the White Hall a long time ago. There were even cheaper drugs, but with side effects. That means he He was totally shocked to conclude that baldness was now fashion. The man raised his eyebrows in confusion. Candidate Quang Ich hurried over and handed over the needed documents. Here are my papers and ID. Why so many checks? Just look at this handsome face. Isn't that enough? The man quickly assigned him seat number 48. Meanwhile, he was suspicious, thinking quietly. This exam is nothing like what I imagined. Why are there desks and chairs? I've never seen these in all my training sessions. Still, he obediently sat at his desk. No, once the real exam starts, who knows what'll happen. That prick might suddenly pull out a knife and charge at me. He laced his fingers together and stared hard. All right, focus till the very last second. The murderous intent from Quang Ich's desk flared up like fire, so nothing would catch me off guard. Time flew by fast. Other candidates around him arrived and took their seats. Some held books, mumbling nonstop. Others flipped through notebooks, checking everything. Sweat started pouring down his face. Quang Ich, 20 years old, was going through the biggest shock of his life. That man stood up holding a pen. I'm sure everyone brought one. But is there anyone without a pen? He paused to scan the room for a moment. Quang Ich hesitated before raising a hand. The man immediately sized him up. Who the hell are you? Even he was speechless. I knew it, right? Quang Ich felt something was off but couldn't say a word. Suddenly, memories flooded back. I don't even know when I started prepping for this exam. Not just my mom, even my dad kept reminding me about the cram sessions for this test, endless days of pure misery. The guy ran, then trembled in pain. But I still poured all my heart into it. The coach even stabbed and slashed mercilessly just to get through the exam. Quang Ich's face darkened clearly. But then the host's announcement rang out. The exam would start in 10 minutes. He was the first to arrive and had spent 50 minutes staring into space, so he was freaking out. I came to the wrong place. He kept sweating buckets at the man's words. I'm sure everyone has a pen already. But is there anyone without a pen? He thought miserably. His last hope was crushed. The man casually handed him a pen. Take it. He stared at the pen for a final check. Just a normal pen. Looks like I'm taking a written test. Quang Ich curiously scanned the exam room. The vibe here was like other test centers. But what the hell are they studying? If I ask them to show me what they're looking at, will they curse me out? Their faces sparkled in his mind. I already noticed earlier, but everyone here was a total hottie. The guys had this tough, eye-catching vibe. Some even looked like they could be models. He turned back to his seat, but his eyes stuck on someone. Among them, the most attractive was the tall, broad-shouldered dude next to him, making Quang Ich insanely jealous. That bastard? Damn. Even his hands are beautiful, like he's shooting a commercial by himself. What's that glow behind him? The guy casually glanced up and locked eyes with Quang Ich, then quickly looked away like avoiding contact. He felt awkward about this. Damn, hope he doesn't misunderstand me. People outside rushed in fast too. The door was pushed open by staff carrying props. The blackboard was moved around the desks, surprising him. The wheels under the blackboard screeched as it rolled. Outside, the same thing appeared and was pulled professionally. Soon, the blackboard surrounded Quang Ich's entire view. The host spoke again. Now we will start handing out the test. He calmly propped his chin on his hand. These partitions must be for immortals with sharp senses. Huh. No wonder the desks are spaced so far apart. Outside the entrance, people's hurried voices echoed. Did I just arrive on time? The instructor quickly assigned him. Yeah. Candidate number 50 over there. The other guy stammered an explanation. I overslept, and Quang Ich was focused on the test papers being handed out. If this was any other test, latecomers like this would be rejected immediately. He glanced over with some thoughts. The test for immortals looked easy, but on closer look, it was a warning. The special employment test for immortals, if you tell anyone outside or post about it online, spreading info about this secret test for special species, he immediately thought back. All right, I take that back. Whispered complaints started spreading. Too hard. Silent. The guy held his head and groaned. Seriously, I'd rather run through blades than take a test like this, so I can show them my talent for dodging knives. Quang Ich's eyes returned to the paper with surprise. The questions were about responsibility. Your leg has a hole the size of a coin. What's the first thing you gotta do? 1. Use a portable blood transfusion kit. 2. Figure out where the wound came from. Was it a gunshot or a burn? 3. Find something to use. 4. Apply pressure to the wound. 5. Pray to whatever gods there are and avoid the truth. You can't help but blurt out, what the hell? Quang Yi rubbed the back of his neck and circled his answer. Did someone say this was hard? He picked number 4. The guy calculated all the possibilities super carefully. If it's not some special case, then options 2 and 3 would matter more. But a hole the size of a coin isn't that huge. Assuming it's a gunshot wound, the first thing you gotta do is apply pressure to stop the bleeding. Gong's words echoed in his head. No matter what, always prioritize stopping the bleeding first. If blood keeps flowing, You'll go into shock. Apply pressure, then find something to stop the bleeding. The guy felt even more sure about his guess. The teacher said it before, but if you've run through blades a few times, you'd learn this on your own. Just stop the bleeding and nothing bad will happen. He moved on to the next question. The second question was, when losing blood rapidly, what percentage of blood loss causes shock? 1. Up to 10%. 2. 10 to 15%. 4. 45 to 20%. 4. 20 to 25%. 5. 25 to 30%. Why do all these answers sound the same? This was tied to a lesson he'd been through before. He'd never gone into shock, so he got scolded about it back then. G kept chasing him, attacking nonstop. Why aren't you in shock yet? How many more stabs does it take? Quang Ich was freaking out. How many more times are you going to stab me? The guy said he must be immortal, but if not, he was just a normal human. If I went into shock like a normal person, the answer would be 3. He kept solving the test questions. Next, if you can't dodge the opponent's blade attack, what do? The answer, give them your hand. He heard a million times how important mobility is. The pen in his hand kept moving. Next question was 1. Suddenly, he remembered a movie he'd seen. He worked while thinking casually and relaxed. The main character was born into a poor family and decided to join a quiz show with a huge prize. That character answered questions using life experience. This question was about poison. He dealt with that stuff a lot. Meanwhile, others were tearing their hair out. This test wanted to see if contestants had used an immortal body a lot and how much they knew about it. That made him remind himself that he'd used this body to go through brutal training sessions. Nah. To put it simply, he'd come back from hell. Pieces of memory flashed through his mind to help him solve the problems, the basics taught by his master and knowledge gained from countless training sessions. He put down the pen after finishing. All that stuff gave him the answer. Quang Ich placed both hands on the table, calm as ever. Practice is learning. But suddenly he noticed something behind the page. Oh, there was one more question. Was this an essay question? It didn't faze him. How do you kill an immortal? Well, obviously, gotta finish this last one. Quang Ich looked around the room curiously. I'm done. How long have I been at this? The guy with the spiky hair saw him too. He still had an hour left. He gave up already? Whoever finishes early can leave first. Just flip the paper and walk out. The guy followed instructions and gently pushed the door open to leave. He was pretty surprised to see someone he knew. Nuna, with a cornrow hairstyle, was at the entrance. The girl stood there holding a clipboard. Have you read the details of the agreement on the paper? Quang Ich quickly replied, yeah. The staff then handed over a tablet. This is about the agreement. He swiped through the privacy policy. If I break the agreement, OFX will catch me, no matter if I'm immortal or whatever. Whoa, sounds scary. I agree. She suddenly asked, are you sure you're a hybrid? Though a bit surprised, he answered politely. Yeah, I'm a hybrid between a shapeshifter and an immortal. The girl smiled brightly. Good luck. Quang Yi's cheeks flushed red all of a sudden. Thanks, girl. Is this my shot? Nah, she's not really my type anyway. That night, the place where the Immortals contest was held still had lights on in some rooms. The guy with the spiky hair was holding his head, sighing. In his hand was Quang Ich exam paper. Who the hell is this dude? How do you kill an immortal, besides burying them underground or underwater? The answer was super short: suffocation, freezing, burning, crushing into powder. All deadly for an immortal. Like suffocation causing unconsciousness, freezing with nitrogen. Someone burned by fire can't function normally, and they can't regenerate while being crushed into powder either. If there was a way to kill an immortal, there's no clear answer. He pondered deeply. This question never had a straightforward solution from the start. Most immortals seriously lack knowledge about self-preservation. So he had to create questions about weapons in scary situations. Do they even know what can damage an immortal's body? He focused on that essay question. The last question was about that very issue. Our bodies can regenerate, but that doesn't mean we can't die. Once you get that, you can reduce facing death without memorizing every way to kill an immortal. Wang Yin's info was laid out right before him. I heard this guy is a hybrid between an immortal and a human. His physical ability might suck, but his smarts could be super useful. The spiky-haired guy tried picturing someone who didn't look immortal, who was first to arrive and sat still for an hour, left the first room without bringing a single pen. Test scored. Now it's time to score the impression. His impression. 15 days flew by like the wind. His phone buzzed with a call. Hoang picked it up and answered. Mom, Soon Hai's in the kitchen. She replied, then he immediately told her. I passed the civil service exam. She was super proud and praised him. Really, good job. But the guy held up his phone, not just passed, Mom. Soon Hai turned around curious. What else? A message popped up from the website about the special employment test for immortals. We'd like to inform you that you passed the first written test with the highest score. She instantly focused on the last line. You got the highest score? Sun Hai grabbed the knife on the kitchen counter, while his other hand quickly grabbed the phone. She happily told his dad the news. Yon Ho, the kid, passed the exam with the highest score. Yeah, of course. Me, too. Yeah. Top grade Korean beef. Okay, he offered. Can I finally take a break today? But his mom coldly refused. Wear something stretchier. Night came fast in the warm Quang Ich household. Dad's home. He ran out to greet him. Dad, welcome back. Dad was surprised. Son, your attitude kind of bums me out. At least say hello to your old man. He kept mumbling, top grade beef. Each piece of meat his mom cooked and grilled smelled amazing. The three clinked their beers happily. Yon Ho and Sun Hai kept praising. I knew you'd pass. Of course, whose son are you? Ours. He casually shared his thoughts. The questions were easier than I thought. The teacher's better than I expected. His dad grabbed a piece of meat, making him eager. Now that you know the results, the interview's next, right? Just one more interview. The kid replied, eyes on the meat. Yeah. Quang Ich's mom suddenly asked, which department will the kid join first? Yon Ho had the same question. He'll probably start in a public enterprise under the Ministry of Administrative Management and Public Security. I'm not sure either. Quang Ich paused eating and watched them. Really? His dad was still smiling happily, but he noticed. Mom liked Dad's casual way, but to him, it seemed like Dad was dodging the question. Now he was curious too. What exactly do the government and ODX want immortals for? What kind of work does an immortal civil servant do? He chewed with his mouth full but kept staring at his dad. He had tons of questions, but he was sure Dad wouldn't give a straight answer to any. Yon Ho recognized that look in his eyes and immediately asked, what's up? Quang Ich tried to start a convo with him. Dad, can you give me some tips for the upcoming interview? But he instantly brushed it off. I don't know anything about that. Quang Ich put on his vest and straightened the lapels neatly. Shortly after celebrating my top rank in the written test, I got a message telling me the date for my interview. The interview would take place in the same building as the written test. In the end, Dad still refused to give me any info. Yon Ho smiled brightly and said, I told you, I don't know. Usually, interviews like this ask about personality. So I already have my answers ready in my head. Thinking back on those words, he pondered. Whatever, this is the real test now. Super Un and he appeared from behind and said, Son, her eyes full of pride as she looked at him. Do your best. Quang Ich calmly replied, Yes, ma'am. The apartment elevator reached the first floor. Quang Ich stepped out, glanced around, and leaned close to the door, humming to himself, feeling cocky. Looking this good, maybe I should debut as a celeb or something. H-Man appeared from behind and teased. Whoa, so full of yourself, huh? You staring in the mirror and making up stories again? Seeing that, he turned and said, Lately, you two keep running into each other all the time. Are you stalking me or what? She laughed and replied, Stalking? Since when? I'm just passing by. He lectured. On weekends like this, instead of going out, you should focus on studying. You're a senior, after all. Hearing that, she shot back. When you get to be a tutor, then you can scold people like that, okay? Quang Ich sighed tiredly and answered, No time. Himmin blushed and complimented, You look great in that outfit. Quang Ich smiled lightly and said, I know. At the interview company, the sky was really blue today. Inside the special employee waiting room, Quang Ich stepped in. He glanced around at the candidates all focused on their phones. Everyone's so diligent. Should I read some big shot interview stories or what? Suddenly, he noticed the man nearby, the spoiled rich kid who sat next to him back at the testing center. The guy's eyes suddenly widened, then he turned away with a hateful look. Seeing that, Quang Ich got a bit annoyed and thought, What's with that attitude? I'm not sitting next to you this time, not because I don't want to be compared to you. Silence filled the whole hallway. Click-clack, the interview room door suddenly opened. The male staff inside quickly called out, Number 48, Duong X. He promptly replied, Here. Quang Ich slowly stepped inside the room. Looking at the man in front of him, he mentally judged. His skin was pale and his hair blazing red, so his nickname should be Candle. His eyes shifted to the woman beside him and the person sitting next to that man. She gently asked, Have we met before? Seeing her surprised him. The lady from the testing center? Now she's an interviewer too. Daram asked him. First, can I ask what motivated you to apply here? Quang Ich thought for a moment, then answered, If I said it was because my dad told me to, I'd definitely get rejected, right? First, I want to challenge myself with tough tests like this to see how far I can go. He continued sharing his thoughts, and also because I want my dream to come true. Hearing those words, Kim Han asked, Dream? Quang Ich quickly replied, I want to fight for my country and its people. Kim Han kept going. So how much are you willing to sacrifice for your allies? He answered, I don't know. It depends on the situation. Hearing that, the guy coldly said, You mean you don't plan to sacrifice anything? Quang Ich quickly gave a convincing answer. No. Instead, I'll find a practical solution. As he spoke, he worried inside. Sounds kind of provocative, huh? And many more obvious questions and answers followed. Dharam asked him, if your mom and your lover were drowning, who would you save first? Quang Ik didn't hesitate and replied, I think I'd save both at the same time. I'm a great swimmer. Kim Han then asked, if you only had one bullet left but two targets to shoot, what would you do? He stared off into space and replied, I'd shoot one person and throw the gun at the other. Dharam heard this and started imagining the scenario in her head. She covered her face and let out an ah, probably because her answer didn't sound convincing enough. Well, that's how my interview went down. A few days later, while he was gaming, Quang Ich's laughter filled the whole room. Son Hai saw this and asked, Son, just because the interview's over, you're just gonna lie around like that. You don't have any plans today, right? Go outside and have some fun. Hearing that, he replied, I do have plans. She asked again, really? He said, yeah. Then Sun Hai threatened, you know what happens if you fail, right? Hearing that, Quang Ich's expression changed. A date with mom on the battlefield, and the night would end with a brutal lesson. Sun Hai continued, plans with who? He quickly answered, I have plans with myself. Today, I'm gonna be on. Anne eats, sleeps, and chills. Sun Hai was speechless at his answer, then suddenly clenched her fists and excitedly said, suddenly, I'm itching to do something. So where should we go? You want to go hiking? It's been ages since we last went. Let's go out and talk. Hearing that, he reluctantly said yes. Sun Hai warned, you gotta be careful out there. She kept advising, poison is super dangerous for shapeshifters. If they control you, a lot of bad stuff can happen. He didn't get it and asked, like what? Sun Hai replied, usually, it's getting attacked. He asked again, what's the second danger? She answered, getting poisoned, which weakens your healing ability. Sun Hai kept throwing questions at him. Do you know why we made up the story about wolves howling at the full moon when there's no shapeshifter kids? They can't control their instincts and cried at the moon one night, and that's when the full moon appeared. She spoke with a sad tone. If you can't hold back your feelings, just go outside and scream your heart out. Hearing that, he answered, but usually, the craziest chaos we hear about is caused by the law enforcers and superhumans. I've never heard anyone howling at night. Hearing this, Sun Hai offered a solution. There's a way to control your emotions. He was surprised and asked, what? She immediately said, self-control. Hearing that, Quang Ich's mind flashed back to training days. After I woke up, Mom often took me hiking. I guess it was to train my self-control by climbing mountains. Sun Hai pointed at him and seriously explained, and it helps you relax your mind. You can use your energy to boost your training and self-control. That's the key. What she said next left Quang Ich speechless. That's why I told you to find a girlfriend. If you don't, sooner or later, you'll just rot away. She continued, well, if that happens, rotting away isn't so bad, right? Genetically, you're prone to trouble. Sun Hai said, hey, are you a guy? He quickly cut her off. No? Hearing that, Sun Hai sighed with a headache. If you keep this up, I'm really worried. Maybe you should go out instead of lying around all the time. She kept going. You passed, so why not go out and relax a bit? What do you want to do now? Hearing that, Quang Ich hesitated and stammered. I went back to the interview moment. Dharam congratulated him. Congrats on getting accepted. She handed a file to Quang Ich and explained, please skim through this and feel free to ask me if you have any questions. Quang Ich took the file and read the info inside, then silently thought, the training lasts 5 weeks for the orientation course. What do they teach that takes over a month? Living in the dorm during probation. His eyes suddenly widened in shock. The info in the file shocked him. The annual salary for brokers is $60,500. Physical training fees are covered by insurance, bonuses are added separately. Cultural and recreational activity fees are covered after probation and provided for the office and apartment where you work. Fees for other activities are covered by diverse welfare benefits. Fees for this and that are all covered by a wide range of benefits. If you work beyond the winning quota, you get exempted from military service. Quang Ich suddenly blurted out. His dream was to become a soldier. He muttered shyly in his head, what the hell is wrong with this company? Are they all crazy? They're messing up the entire work ecosystem of Korea. Dharam asked him, do you want to ask anything? Hearing that, he asked back, can I let my parents read this document? She then asked, your dad is immortal, right? He replied, yeah. Dharam's face lit up as she propped her chin and said, if you want your mom to get a life sentence, go ahead and let her know. That'll definitely be a beautiful memory. Do you think so? Hearing those words, he was secretly terrified. She said crazy stuff in such a cute way. Back to the present, Quang Ich was full of anxiety. Then I can't tell Mom. He cleared his throat. Mom, about these conditions and benefits. His eyes showed determination. I intend to become the head of the administrative and security department. Hearing that, she sighed deeply in frustration and said, oh really? As a young man with a desire to contribute to society, you think such dedication is necessary. He thought to himself, I just want to work at a company that recognizes my value, definitely not for money or free housing, definitely not. Sun Hai stood up, enough already. He continued, it's all thanks to my informative dad and my beautiful mom. Of course, it's all thanks to the blood of my parents that I inherited. Suddenly, she exclaimed, I'm so happy, which surprised him. Seeing that, Sun Hai continued explaining, I'm happy to have you as my child, except for your silly jokes. She spoke gently to him. If there was a kid like you among a bunch of shapeshifters, he quickly reassured, I'm really okay. His mind was full of anxious thoughts. Mom, I feel lucky to be born a mixed-race kid. Shapeshifters have to deal with their instincts. Immortals face extremely dangerous things. Crimes by special breeds are increasing every year. What's the solution? He thought about the solution. I heard many shapeshifters have extremely violent instincts and immortals are very sensitive, but I'm none of those. Looking around, Quang Ich was deep in thought. My instincts are at a level I can control just by using everything online like a normal 20-year-old. Thinking about fun stuff and the sensitivity of an immortal like me is easy to handle. I'm confident I can do well anywhere. He also left a message so Mom wouldn't worry. Quang Ich held his phone. I'm confident I'll do well. On the bus, everyone's presence gradually appeared. Carefully selected people, and he was waiting for the bus to the training site. No matter where you are or who you're with, under the scorching sun, everyone around was drenched in sweat. By then, Quang Ich had sat inside the bus. He looked up outside, quietly thinking, summer's here. Finally escaping the blazing heat and enjoying the air conditioning in the huge bus rented by the company. Half the bus was filled with immortals heading to the orientation for new employees. He strode down the aisle to his seat. I couldn't make it at the testing center, but on a bus like this, maybe I can be someone with pure blood or not. Quang Ich's mood was full of anxious thoughts. The different appearances and strange atmosphere around them would reveal if they had pure bloodline or not. I can sense it through enhanced 5 senses and the intuition of an immortal. He turned to Himo. That's right. Quang Ich's eyes looked at the man right next to him, like the prince who sat beside him last time. And here I am sitting next to him again. This was the only empty seat. The whispering chatter from behind went, mixed blood? What about you? From a bad dad. They kept gossiping. I bought some snacks. You don't eat. Thanks. Hearing the people behind chatting, he thought to himself, looks like everyone already made friends. Then he remembered when Yeon-ho talked to him. It's best to make lots of friends and not judge people just by first impressions. He continued. Sometimes people give a bad first impression but are actually good, and vice versa. Hearing this, I replied, got it. Yeon-ho came over and ruffled Quang Ich's hair, praising, my son's grown a lot. I happily shot back, now I'm even taller than you. Yeon-ho leaned on the railing and warned me, don't act like a big kid these days. Are you sleeping, okay? I quickly answered, yeah. Hearing that, he said, you're doing great. I couldn't even manage that when I was young. When he brought up old times, I asked, how did you deal with it back then? Yeon-ho quickly explained, he had sleep problems. Everything was fine except he could hear every little sound from the neighbors. I asked right away, so how did you fix it? You can't just stay awake forever, right? Thinking to myself, shapeshifters use self-control to suppress their instincts, so how do immortals keep their sensitivity in check? Seeing this, Yeon-ho stood with his arms crossed and told me. He used earplugs and blindfolds. He avoided anything that wasn't made of ultra-fine fiber blankets. But none of it worked, so he bought a 1-story house and built a separate room inside with soundproof walls. I was dumbfounded by his solution, thinking, that's hardcore, something a poor immortal could never pull off. He smiled brightly and explained, if you keep dealing with insomnia while living like an adult in society, you'll eventually find a way to handle it, or